So the federal government has shut down again. You've probably seen the headlines and the angry press conferences, but what's really going on behind the scenes? We're going to break down the core issues, the political playbook, and most importantly, the real-world impact of the 2025 government shutdown.
Here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start with the gridlock itself. Then we'll do a quick dive into what a shutdown actually is. After that, we'll get to the heart of the matter, the healthcare standoff. We'll look at the blame game, ask if this is all just politics, and finally, we'll cover the ripple effect this has on everyone.
All right, let's get right into it. Washington is, for all intents and purposes, at a complete standstill, and at the center of it all is a major political impasse.
As we're recording this, we are 15 days into this shutdown. We've seen multiple votes in the Senate, and they've all failed to break this stalemate. This leaves hundreds of thousands of federal workers just stuck in limbo, and government services are being scaled back. Honestly, neither side is showing any sign of blinking first.
From the Republican perspective, you can hear the frustration loud and clear. House Speaker Mike Johnson put it bluntly. What Chuck Schumer is doing right now, it's sickening. So he's framing this whole thing as a deliberate, harmful move by Democrats, basically accusing them of holding the entire government hostage.
But then you have this, a pretty stark contrast. In a moment of surprising honesty, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said, "Every day gets better for us." Now, what does that tell you? It suggests Democrats feel pretty confident. They seem to believe the public is on their side, and that if they just hold their ground, Republicans will eventually be the ones to cave. All this talk of a standoff really brings us to a pretty basic question. What exactly is a government shutdown? How does this even happen? Let's quickly get into the mechanics. Okay, so here's the bottom line. There's a law called the Anti-Deficiency Act, and what it means is that federal agencies are legally forbidden from spending money that Congress hasn't given them permission to spend. So when those 12 funding bills don't pass by the deadline, all non-essential services have to grind to a halt. It's the law.
Now, usually, to dodge a shutdown, Congress will pass something called a continuing resolution, or a CR. The easiest way to think about it is like a temporary patch. It just keeps the government funded, usually at the same levels as the year before, just to buy everyone more time to negotiate. And it's this exact piece of legislation, the CR, that's at the very center of this whole fight.
And this right here, this is the magic number that explains so much of what's happening, 60. In the U.S. Senate, you need 60 votes to break a filibuster and move a spending bill forward. That gives the minority party a huge amount of power to just block things. It basically forces the two parties to come to the table and actually work together.
So, what is the big issue here? What's the specific disagreement that's so important that both sides are willing to shut down the entire federal government over it? Well, it all comes down to healthcare.
And here's where the two sides are really dug in. Republicans want to pass a funding bill that keeps government spending the same, but, and this is the key part, they also want to include policy changes that would cut certain healthcare programs. On the flip side, Democrats are demanding what they call a clean bill, which just means reopening the government with no strings attached. And they also want to use this opportunity to extend some expiring Affordable Care Act subsidies.
So, with the battle lines clearly drawn, you know what comes next, right? The war of words. Now it's all about messaging, with both parties trying to frame the shutdown in a way that gets their voters fired up and puts all the pressure on the other side.
Republican messaging has really been laser-focused on immigration. The argument you're hearing is that Democrats' healthcare demands are really about giving benefits to undocumented immigrants. This is a strategic move to shift the whole debate away from the nitty-gritty of ACA subsidies and onto political turf that they feel is more favorable to them. In response, Democrats are pushing back hard. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is making the point that, hey, federal law already bans the use of these funds for undocumented immigrants. Their argument is that the Republican proposed cuts actually hit lawfully present non-citizens, think refugees and asylum seekers, and they're trying to shift the conversation back to protecting health care for those groups and for the millions of Americans who depend on ACA subsidies.
You know, this whole intense blame game raises a much bigger question. Is this level of concern over government spending always this high, or does it kind of shift depending on which party is in the White House? Well, a really fascinating academic study offers a pretty surprising take on this.
The study gets into this concept called partisan-motivated reasoning. The basic idea is that we all have a tendency to process information in a way that supports our own team, our own political party. It's not just that we see facts differently, it's that we can actually change how important we think an issue is, depending on whether it helps our side or hurts the other one.
And this graph from the study just illustrates the point perfectly. Researchers looked at transcripts from partisan media shows. During the Obama years, a Democratic administration, mentions of debt and deficit on the conservative show Hannity were through the roof. But look what happens the moment a Republican takes over in 2017. Those mentions just plummet, even though the national debt was still going up.
So what the researchers basically concluded is that outrage over government spending isn't always about the actual numbers. A lot of the time, it's used as a political weapon, ammunition, as they put it, for the party that's out of power to attack the party that's in power. And that's really important to remember. It means when you hear these fiery arguments during a shutdown, it's worth asking if the level of outrage has always been consistent. It suggests the intensity of the concern can be very, very political.
But while this whole political battle plays out in Washington, the shutdown has very real, very tangible consequences that are rippling out across the entire country. Let's take a look at what this stalemate actually means for real people.
Yeah, the impact is immediate and it's widespread. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of federal workers who are either sent home or are working without pay. It means delays in getting a passport or a small business loan. Visitor centers at national parks are closed. There are fewer food safety inspections. And if this thing drags on, even pay for our military could be at risk. The Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated that a shutdown in 2019 permanently erased $3 billion from our economy. These aren't just abstract numbers. They have real, lasting costs.
Which leaves us with this final, and maybe most important question. Funding the government requires the House, the Senate, and the President all to agree. When that process breaks down, when the whole system fails and the government shuts its doors, who's ultimately responsible? Is it the party in charge of Congress? Is it the minority party that's using its power to block things? Or is it the president? There's really no easy answer, but that is the fundamental question at the very heart of this entire standoff.